Good evening, everybody. This is Dr. Mulder, and I like to start the show with a quote from Nikola Tesla. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And I think that is exactly 100% correct. As you know, I have had this thing about the Mandela effect. I've been interested in this phenomenon for over 7 years, and really, I've even talked to other people who were highly educated in the subject. Well, not the subject, but they were highly educated. They were reasonably sane, and we would discover that we remember things identically to what things are today. This could be anatomy, geography. I mean, the list goes on and on. And so, it kind of made me wonder how in the heck can this happen? How can I, how can we possibly have physical changes in this? And I've heard a lot of theories and what have you, but I wanted to get down to the nitty-gritty as the physics of this. And I think Nikola Tesla had the key to why we have the Mandela effect. Last night I was talking to a good friend of mine, Mobius. He's the engineer that's behind a lot of technical stuff that Joshua P. Warren has been involved in over the years. You know, he designed gadgets, Tesla coils, solar generators. I mean, the list goes on and on of the kind of things that Mobius has created, engineered, and created and built for Joshua and for the general public. Um, but anyway, we were having a conversation about this stuff because he was on top of this. He's a highly trained engineer, and his specialty was telecommunications, satellites, and that kind of thing. So the guy understood radio. He still understands it very, very well to this day. And so we were discussing this, and I was telling him my idea about a multiverse, and he he's kind of skeptical, but he was open-minded. And I said to him, "Okay, well, let's think of it this way. You have an AM, radio, and you have different stations, and there are different frequencies. They're all coexisting on this band. Okay, the AM band, but they're separate from each other. One may be rock and roll, the other may be country music, another one may be talk shows, whatever. Okay, but they're all separated by each other by one thing, frequency. Well, it came to my attention that the reality that we live in is at a frequency of 22 trillion times a second. In other words, we are on, we are off, we are on, we are off, we exist, we don't exist, we exist, we don't exist. Well, at the top of that waveform is the physical reality. This is what we look at, what we perceive to be real, quote unquote. It's like we knock on that desk and you hear that sound, it's real to you. But in reality, it's not because it's basically space. It's the the atoms that make up this desk that I just knocked on. Yeah, they exist, but they're just a small portion of what makes up that atom, and that atom is basically a majority of nothing. It's emptiness. It's vacuum, if you want to call it that. I mean, there's nothing there, but it still exists, and we have a perception of it being physical reality, even though it's not. Anyway, getting back to this, the universe, okay, has a frequency of 22 trillion times a second. Our universe, okay. Well, what if you have another universe that's next to it that has a frequency of 22 trillion, 100 billion times a second? It would be totally different than the frequency of our universe. In other words, they could coexist, they could actually go through each other. They would not interfere with each other at all because they're on a different frequency. All right. And this goes back to the secrets of the universe. This is how we're able to have infinite universes and infinite possibilities and infinite probabilities. Because the way I see it now that I understand that we are on a frequency and that other universes just as large as ours can coexist in the same space due to the fact that they have a different frequency and they will not exchange with each other. They won't even know that the other exists for all intents and purposes, just like those radio stations on that AM dial. is that they are able to coexist and be, again, invisible to each other. Now, knowing this, that so my calculation is how many possible realities or universes exist in what we know as the creation, if you want to go that, if you want to use that word. I would say it's infinity times infinity. In other words, it can't be counted, it's infinite. And that makes total sense because the universe seeks novelty. It likes change. It likes to seek things, it's kind of throwing the dice and it's watching, it'll give everything the tools to become something, but it's really up to it's the free will of that being or that creature or whatever to do what it does with that free will. Or with the tools at hand, the limitations of its physical body or its mental capabilities. The list goes on. But anyway, you get my drift. It's just uh, the universe seeks creation, it seeks variety, it seeks novelty. All right. Now, how does this tie into the Mandela effect? Well, here we go. Imagine, for whatever reason, you have two alternative universes that are coexisting, and for a split second, they kind of become they resonate or they vibrate or whatever you want to use, whatever word you want to use, at a frequency that is temporarily identical. In other words, you have one universe that's vibrating at 22 trillion times a second, and you have another one that, for whatever reason, begins to vibrate at the same identical frequency, and they start to intermesh. Now, a good example of this is getting back to that AM band, is where, say, you're on a country road and it's a clear night, and you have really excellent reception for AM. You're listening to a radio station, and we'll just arbitrarily pick a number, 570. And as you drive, that radio station will start to fade. But guess what? There's another radio station that has the same identical frequency that you begin to pick up. Is that sweet spot between those two? Is where things start to really get a little funky. So you have two realities. They're at the same frequency. They begin to uh, talk to each other and start to exchange information. Now, getting back to what I said earlier about there's a waveform reality. One that top part of that waveform is a physical reality. Well, what's at the bottom of that waveform? Now, this is where it gets really funny. At the bottom of that waveform, that's the etheric, that's the spiritual world, if you want to call it, lack of a better word. That is where God, for example, or angels, that's their domain. Your soul, that's its domain, is in that part of the waveform. Okay, so if you're not in the physical, you're in the spiritual. And matter of fact, you spend half your life in the spiritual and half your life in the physical. And it happens so fast you don't know it. And that's the reason why you have consciousness. That's the reason why you're able to pick up new ideas. Where these new ideas come from? Where's genius come from? It comes from, does it come from that person's brain where all of a sudden, they attribute it to the subconscious mind coming up with the answers, or is it tapping into a higher source? Some people think there may be these records, all known information that people are have the ability to tap into for infinite knowledge. Well, how did they get there? And my theory here, or hypothesis, is that on the bottom part of that waveform, that's where you're tapping into infinite intelligence. That's where all the stuff comes in. That's where you got the angelic. That's where you have the demonic. That's where you have the old souls, the new souls, whatever your version of heaven, your version of hell. That's where it's all located at on the bottom part of that waveform. All right, now getting back to this. Okay, you have two universes that, for whatever reason, they have resonated. So there's a change here, and I think that change is basically a spiritual change. In other words, I think approximately, I'm a firm believer in the 80-20 rule. I'm thinking, as what I can tell right now, that 20% of the population from one reality, their soul, their spiritual, their consciousness, it shifted over from one reality to another reality and vice versa. So what that means is that in our reality, we remember, the Panama Canal going east to west, but in this reality, it's going from north south. And but in the reality of the people that we've exchanged places with, they're looking at this their reality, their universe, and they're thinking the same damn thing we're thinking. They're thinking, why the hell is this damn Panama Canal uh, going east to west when I know for a fact they went north south? And the list could go on and on. So the point of this is, I think what has happened here is, I don't think things have physically changed here in this universe. From my it depends on your perspective. Things have not physically changed in this reality on this planet, but from the perspective of the few that shifted from one reality to another, that has changed from our memories. We come from a different reality. We're not crazy. And I've talked to other people again. I just want to confirm this, who are highly educated, who are very, very rational, who are very, very logical, and a lot of them are even scientists. And they see the same things I see. They remember the same things I remember. So I know I'm not freaking crazy. And I know it's not some kind of confabulation, but I see these things all the time. And so, in a nutshell, hopefully this wasn't too convoluted. I've kind of spanned over this, but yes, all if you were to look at the universe as say a radio wave, and with information on it, just like just like your local radio station, for example. That's what we're living in. We're living in basically this is a hologram. This is all energy. We have the illusion of reality, but in reality, it is not reality. So, all right. Well, enough of my rant. This is just me, basically, just a stream of consciousness about the subject, and I'm planning on having Mobius on the air to try to go over this in more detail, and maybe he can help me make more sense of this or make it not be so convoluted. All right. On that note, I'm out of here. Have a great day. Bye.